Okay, it is about a minute after, so we'll go ahead and get things kicked off. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. Greetings on behalf of AJ Joshi with Vocal and myself, Nancy Harvey with Opargo. We've come together today to talk a little bit about some of the staffing challenges that we're seeing across our industry as well as others, and just different ways that we can have an open conversation to find ways to improve and make changes around this topic. So I really appreciate you joining, and we're very excited to dig into different ways to make a difference. So first off, let's talk about our current landscape. What's causing these shortages? COVID. I mean, you have to say it with a big sigh in your voice. It's creating difficulties around, of course, our staff staying healthy, their families staying healthy to be able to come to work. And it's a little different than a normal cold or a flu in that you don't get to just be sick one day and come to work the next. There's a quarantine surrounding that afterwards. And so that's just made even those who want to come to work a new struggle in being there. And then, of course, we've all heard around the great resignation or the big quit, folks just really not being inclined to want to come to work for various reasons in this new environment. And it's causing, of course, great shortages around skilled labor and our ability to find them. And God love those that are able to come to work. It's creating additional stress for them, where there's so much burden being placed on the staff that are here, which is causing burnout. And with the ups and downs of onboarding new staff as it happens, training them and making sure that they're all up to speed. And then, of course, finding that talent to begin with has been a big struggle. So, AJ, anything you want to add around
Yeah,
that?
just to kind of highlight kind of the importance of this. And, this issue of shortages actually exist in all industries across the country today. But it's particularly bad for medical practices because you've got patients on the other side, and patient care is being affected by these shortages. And I know it's been a struggle. It's been a very stressful time for practices for a couple of years now. And this has just made it that much worse. And so it's a topic that's near and dear to our hearts as well. So,
yeah, for sure. Well, enough of the negativity. Let's figure out a way to make it better. So your sponsors today are AJ Joshi from Vocal. He's our client success manager. And then myself, Nancy Harvey with Opargo. I'm our chief customer officer. So welcome again. Quick little couple housekeeping items before we move forward. This is going to be a panel style discussion. So we have two panelists that we'll introduce here in just a minute. We really want this to be collaborative. This isn't about us, this is about you guys and how we can help solve for some problems. So do use the Q&A tool through Zoom to submit any questions or comments. If there's anything that you guys are implementing as best practices in your organizations, we want to hear about it. That's what this is all about. In an effort to keep this orderly, we are keeping everyone on mute. So do use that Q&A tool to keep the conversation open and collaborative. So a couple of introductions. Thanks so much to our two panelists that have agreed to join us today. First, we have Kathleen Fox. She's the VP of Human Resources for Midwest Vision Partners. Welcome, Kathleen.
Glad to be here.
Thanks. And then we have Monica Henderson. She's the Administrative Director for Alabama Neurology and Sleep Medicine. So I'm going to stop sharing of my screen because we really are going to make this just a roundtable and a discussion. So a little bit about how Kathleen and I came to know one another. So MVP is, Midwest Vision Partners rather, is an organization that was introduced to Opargo while they were looking for a unified software solution across all of their practices. They are based out of Chicago, have 13 practices encompassing around 120 providers and 1,300 employees. And during that search for a technology business partner, Allscripts, powered by Opargo's practice optimization tool, was brought to the table because one of MVP's goals was to prioritize patients who need care the most and be able to promote the goals of the practice and the provider with every appointment scheduled. And they implemented these technologies. Sorry, AJ, what was that?
Do you mind if we do a poll real quick? Just to
Sure.
kind of get a sense for where the audience is. It's a very timely topic. And what we want to do is to actually hear from you what your top areas are, so that in our conversations, we'll try to hit on those topics. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so I'll launch the poll real quick. It's just a couple of quick questions.
Sounds good.
Here they are. Two questions. And I'll give it maybe about a minute or so, or 30 seconds or so.
I think I know how people are going to answer number one. Is this a trick question?
All right. Just give it a few more seconds. All right, that's good. So here are the results. The first question was, how many staff members are you short in your practice today?
Yep.
So only 13% are all staffed up, which is why we're having this webinar. And there's about 30%, 1 out of 3 are actually more than 10. So this is a significant issue. In fact, I guess 60% have over 4, which is considerable. Considering the average practice is 10 providers. So that's total employees. That's still pretty significant. So what are you doing to retain your staff today? And it seems like all of the above, but the flexible work hours is a big one. Pay increases is probably the most, and I'm sure that's probably one of the first things that practices think about. And we're curious to hear what others is, and please put that into the Q&A. So on that, I'll stop sharing and jump back into our program.
Yes. Thanks, AJ. I appreciate that. So MVP implemented those technologies across all of their organizations. And so when AJ and I were talking about this webinar, thinking, who might we be able to pull in that would be a good fit to serve as one of our panelists, because of Midwest Vision Partners' progressive, technological advancements and the way that their practice runs. It was really obvious that Kathleen, was a good fit to serve as one of our panelists. So thanks so much, Kathleen, for joining. We've talked a little bit about what we've gleaned and that other people are experiencing. What is that looking like within your organization? What are some of these challenges, and what does that look like for MVP?
Well, I think it's not just MVP, but the nation, the world, right? We're all struggling to recover and maneuver the coronavirus pandemic. So hiring today is extremely tough. Attracting top talent is seen as to be the most difficult issue to navigate. Following that, we have to ensure candidates feel safe to work on site. We have to manage the virtual recruiting and onboarding practices, as well as dealing with a very low volume of applicants. So where we exhausted, time for recruiting, more of our time is centered on recruiting a top talent. We have to take a much more aggressive approach and seek and search and find the candidates. It's much more of the headhunters mentality to even find entry-level candidates. The bottom line, recruiting today is more exhausting and takes more time and more energy than it ever has.
Interesting. So what different ways are you getting creative to find your staff?
Well, there's a lot of things that we've done. One of the biggest things we did right away was implement a new application tracking system. So we partnered with a company that made sure that we could do the mobile applications. Previously, you go out to your computer, you'd fill out your application online, you submit a resume. In today's world, you have to hit people fast, hit them fast, even in a car, in between, their schedules, hey, how do I reach out to somebody? So we made sure that our ATS system had a mobile application. That's where people are doing it quickly, right? They're not filling out applications anymore online. They're just submitting their resumes to openings. We had to make sure we got some more of the job boards out there as well. There's hundreds of them out there. I know Indeed is probably the biggest one right now because you hear all the marketing, but there's ZipRecruiter, there's, industry specific job boards, but there's about 100 other ones that people don't use that are free as well. Utilizing your employee network program. I mean, if you haven't before, if you had one before, reactivate it, make sure all your employees know about it, increase the bonus reward. We've just did that recently, and we're making sure that, our patients can refer individuals to us as well and give them some kind of an incentive.
What does that employee network look like? I've never worked in an organization that had kind of that established structure.
Anybody can refer a candidate, right? So the network can be anywhere. You don't want to limit it to just, only you can invite, everybody, aunts, uncles, somebody else knows somebody else, somebody else, right? We want to know about it. So we're trying to come up with, even like wrap a vehicle in front of your building, right? People are going to drive by. They might even drive into your parking lot and you can say, hey, we're hiring. Did we catch your attention? I mean, you can do anything that's just unique that'll get people to say, because we've all put that we're hiring outside, of our practice centers, or we put a sign on the door. That's not going to get it anymore. We have to be much more creative. Now, I'm right now, be honest, I'm looking at billboards, the old fashioned way. People are driving by. How do I get our name out there? I mean, how do I get people to say, hey, come to us more than any place else? So that's some of the things that I'm looking at. I'm just trying to, come up with different ways. We're implementing a tech academy. So it's our normal training program, but maybe if we use the word academy, that could get people in the door. I think, it's tuition free education, and we're building a certificate program for them. Looking at, Scribe America. There's all kinds of long-term temp agencies out there that we didn't really tap those resources before, because we were always afraid that we'd have turnover. Well, you're going to have turnover no matter what. So maybe getting somebody that's a medical student that has already, the intrinsic values to want to learn about our career and our path, they'd be the best candidate for us, even though it's going to be short term, but it's something that somebody will be more engaged. So those are some of the things that we're just looking at off the top of my head. Sorry.
Surprising you guys use technology to make things better. That shouldn't be shocking. So from a staff retention standpoint, how have you guys changed things to keep your existing staff happy and on board?
Well, every 6 months, we do a culture survey to make sure that we are tapping and taking snapshots of how employees are feeling. Some of the other things we're doing is obviously, increasing swag, right? Make sure everybody has jackets and t-shirts and water bottles and all that stuff that makes it fun. We've also, last year we learned that we purchased it's a bingo game basically. And you can establish it, how many prizes you want by how many people play. And then what we did was we just sent out a couple words each day and we had them timed. So like one, a word would go out at 10 o'clock, another one would go out at noon and 2 o'clock. And people kept that up, and we had it established that it would take about 3 weeks. It would keep people totally engaged, and they were so excited when they could yell bingo. And at one time, because I had set up all the words ahead of time and I didn't sign into my computer, the 10 o'clock word didn't go out, and boy, did I hear it. So I knew people were engaged right then and there because, they were anticipating when the next email would come out so they could play bingo. And so we had such a good turnover. We're doing that again. And, and we're just giving out small prizes, but it's to keep work fun. And that's what we have to do because people are stressed, at work, and we want to make it fun. So make sure that, you're doing all these things to keep employees happy and keep that communication flow open.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead, AJ.
It really seems like employees now have a choice, where to work for. As in the past, they might have thought that they just have one option, but I think we are kind of in a employees market at this point. And do you see a lot of activity in terms of people moving around between practices? Also, maybe those who are offering better perks or more creative like you are getting some of the employees from the other practices?
Not so much moving from practice to practice, maybe moving from industry to a different industry. And maybe we're different because we are such a large in proximity that we're hoping that once we get people on board that we retain them. So that's good news for us. But, we all use the words, hey, McDonald's is hiring at $15 an hour or something like that. That's not the caliber of individual I want in my company anyway. I want the best of the best and the creme de la creme. So I'm not going to, I'm going to go after the top candidates that are going to be the best fit for me. And I'll be honest, yeah, if they're working someplace else, I want to steal them. I'm not shy about it. I will post my wanted sign or, employee right outside their window. I'm not shy about it anymore. Where I used to be, trying to be very professional and we had that, courtesy to one another. Doesn't matter anymore. I got to get my people.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
So the last time we talked, you were talking about a video that you were going to be recording.
Yeah, we're actually, I'll get the software out there. It's called Biteable. We're trying to do a lot more videos because that's engaging to employees. So all our messages we're doing by video so they can, quickly get it on their mobile phone if they need to. Anything that we're doing, we're trying to basically ensure that we give different mediums to get to the point across because, everybody reads emails, but we want to make sure that they're fun, interactive, and entertaining. So we're doing a lot more video training, video messaging, any which way we can to get things more exciting. So we're doing like a big, the one I think you're specifically thinking of is we're doing one to, we're getting all our employees involved. So we just had our couple of first sessions where we came up with a song and everybody's dancing to the song and we're doing the synchronized thing to it. So
I can't wait to see it.
It is a lot of fun. And I have to be honest, I practice my steps ahead of time. I was the closet dancer in the corner that practiced for like 3 days straight. And I did have a blister. So yeah, I mean, I want to make sure I look good on that film, right?
Would you like to show that to us now? No.
No, it's still in editing. It's still in editing.
Okay. We won't put
I'll be on the floor. Yeah.
We won't put that pressure on you. So from a resource standpoint, you talked about some of the cross-posting on Indeed, and are there any other tools that you're using to get the word out or any other tips that you might give others?
Well, the employee referral program that we're using, right? I mean, we created a video for that as well. We're making sure patients are aware of it too, and that we're building brochures and, big signs in the practice centers. Another thing that we're doing is we're giving out all employees a card. It's like a business card that they can have out because sometimes you might be at a restaurant or at a retail store and you really have a great positive experience with somebody and maybe that person should come work with us. So give them your business card, have them use that code on the back, and then that will make sure that we track to give that employee to a huge bonus as well, right? Because the more we get the word out, the easier it is to attract employees. And it doesn't just have to be, one person's responsibility. It can be everybody get behind this because we want to make sure that we work with people we like. And that if we like the people we work with, it works more enjoyable.
You know what, you guys, we need to make sure that Kathleen doesn't get the attendee list today, so she's not stealing people.
Yeah, we're hiring everybody.
In case you didn't know.
517-614-622. Thank you for that opportunity to advertise.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Is this a short-term or a long-term problem? How long are you going to be dealing with this?
I would love to say I think it's a short-term problem. However, unfortunately, I do think it's a longer-term issue, right? The COVID virus is already morphed into the Delta variant. It can go on and migrate into something else, or it could be another pandemic that we have. So if we do a better job today, that's only going to help us prepare for what might come around the corner going forward. So putting more time and effort into a stronger recruiting process now is really going to help build a stronger foundation.
Yeah.
And get those candidates to the door going forward. So we're just basically practicing what, for a better and better tomorrow. That's what I think of it. So yeah, it could be a long-term problem. Unfortunately, it might be there, but it doesn't just have to be a COVID. It could be something else.
For sure. Well, lastly, I'm sorry, go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, just to add to that. So one of the things that I'm hearing from practices are they're actually bringing people back from retirement, because they already have, the training, and they might have even worked at that practice before. Obviously it's practical to a certain extent, they might have retired for a reason. What do you see that as something that is happening more often than not at practices? Are you reaching out to all your ex-employees?
Absolutely. I mean, that's for the flexibility that you saw in the earlier survey. comes into play, right? Because these retirees don't want to work full-time hours, but we are going to provide them more flexible hours and have them back in the door. They've got the talent that we need. They have the education and the training that already exists. So if they only want to work 1 day a week, by all means. Remember my phone number from earlier?
Kathleen put it in the chat.
Yeah, I'm not shy.
So then, do you see positions that tend to turn over more than others? Has that changed at all during the pandemic?
Yeah, I don't think it's changed. I think you're always going to find the most turnover you have are in the entry-level positions. And I think that's just been stable throughout, history. But I think we need to start making sure that we have, a better improved employee culture, that we make sure that we're doing, the best we can for our entry-level positions, giving them the tools and resources they need to make that a more engaged position, in a longer term tenure for those employees. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, for sure.
Nancy, we have a question.
Yes.
Bill here. We have a question here from Cress. Cress asked, how much do you pay or offer for your referral program, Kathleen?
Well, it used to be, I'll be honest, we just increased it. Honestly, I just sent out the email to all employees today. So for our entry-level positions, it's a $500 incentive reward. For those that have the experience in that field, it's $750. We are providing that at the end of 90 days.
I was wondering.
Yeah. So they have to be employed for 90 days before we give them the return on the investment. But we make sure it's tracked. We make sure the employee knows that, hey, their name was referred. So they feel that trust and they're hopefully they're getting engaged with that friend that they referred. Make sure that buddy system exists to help them be successful in their job. So there's that partnership that you want. And it helps create a stronger engagement process for that employee.
Nice.
That's a good question.
One more just came in, and while we still have you there, the question is from Charlie. He asks, have you implemented mandatory vaccine? How did it affect your staffing? What did you do to minimize the impact?
We have not yet. We're kind of waiting for the executive order from the president to come out. I have already tracked, though, in preparing for this. I did already do a survey with our employees to find out who was vaccinated, who wasn't. We're at about a 60% vaccination rate right now. So I know that if things change in that direction, that will have an impact again to our staffing. I have a feeling that definitely in the ASCs, the surgical centers, where flu vaccinations is already a requirement, that this will probably be a requirement right on the corner as well.
We're working with a group that they work with a hospital, and the hospital required that this private practice have men be vaccinated, and they lost a ton of folks, and it's really, really impacted them. They're super struggling.
One of the
last question. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, one of the things to prepare for that is that you can say, hey, I can't hire somebody unless they're vaccinated, just to get that ball rolling in that direction if you feel so inclined.
And then the last question, then we're going to move on. Cress did ask again, what company do you work for, Kathleen? Maybe Cress looking for a job.
Hey, great. Hey,
No,
again. I work for Midwest Vision Partners. It's a company out of Chicago, but we have our practices throughout the entire state of Michigan and Ohio.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome.
No, I appreciate it. And again, call me.
She says, "Call, you got my digits." Well, thanks so much.
My phone number in big letters.
Well, since people are having such struggles around, look at it, we can't see that, it's blurred. You're awesome. If you hold it close to your face, they'll be able to see it. There's a pro tip. Since folks are having such struggles around, particularly around staffing around our offices, we thought it made a lot of sense to have Monica join us today. AJ, how did you come to meet Monica?
Well, first of all, let me just introduce what Monica does actually. So she manages the front office for Alabama Neurology and Sleep Medicine. And, when Nancy and I were talking about this program itself, like who comes to mind? And, we always thought that the front office is really among the hardest hit when it comes to staffing shortages. And, Monica and I have been talking now since November of last year. And, they implemented our solution VoCall as a way to mitigate some of their staffing shortages, and that was several months back. And from talking to her, things have gotten worse. So Monica, if you can just kind of share the situation that you have today with with the number of people who are out at ANSM and how that's affecting you.
We have a 8-physician practice, Alabama Neurology and Sleep. So we have one physician that does sleep medicine, and the rest of them are doing neurology. So we average every day about 180 to 200 patients a day. It's a lot of patients in one clinic. And so we have front desk workers, we have scheduling workers that actually do, patients calling in to be scheduled, and they do checking out of our patients, scheduling their return visits and scheduling any type of testing or referrals that have to be done. We have, of course, what I call our triage, which is the medical assistants that take patients back and do their medicines, their vital signs, and all that stuff. And then we kind of have I still consider it all to be kind of like front office, but they're kind of in the back that do our incoming referrals, do our pre-appointment. We have people assigned to check insurance and eligibility and all that beforehand. So all of those people are crucial every day to that day actually working well. And so when you have somebody out in any of those areas, it really totally changes that day. Mm-hmm. And, we are seeing, which I had told you this the other day, but at one point in time, about 3 weeks ago, we were down 12 employees for about a week and a half. And so our total employee count, and I'm taking the doctors out of it, but our total employee count is 32. So that's a third of our staff. And it was tremendous. It was horrible. And so we are really, COVID has impacted us recently more so than it has the entire time. It did affect us intermittently, but it's now affecting us a whole lot more. We have had employees that have left more so than we ever have. And so from an administrative standpoint, you're thinking, okay, am I doing something wrong? Is
it me?
Yeah, that everybody's leaving because of me, or whatever. And it's not, because they are seeing so many other opportunities, as y'all were already speaking of. Now, a little different from what Kathleen said, we have actually had a lot of our employees that have went to other medical offices. So not going out of the industry, but going to a place that does offer them more perks or maybe more, pay, more benefits, those kind of things. So, every practice kind of has things about them that make them a little bit better than the other one if you really sit down and compare it, side by side, but it's hard to always know to do that when somebody's already looking for something. So our front office staff is basically what makes the day go. And unfortunately, those are the entry-level positions like Kathleen was talking about. So those are the ones that you don't really have to have a certain credentialing to learn and train and do that job. And so that's where they're kind of, entry level. But those are also the ones that a lot of them want to move on and advance themselves. Luckily, recently, we have had the opportunity to move people into other positions here, which would be basically, of course, they did get a pay increase, but we've had the opportunity, because of losing people, that we were able to take people that we might have lost and put them in a different position that gave them more value to being here, gave them something different where they didn't get burned out with what they're currently doing. And you had mentioned we activated VoCall, and so VoCall allowed a lot of our other employees to then pick up other duties that made their day not as routine and gave them new challenges, that just kind of keeps them fresh, as opposed to them kind of getting
Nice.
down with the same issues every day.
Yeah. Hey, so one of the things that when we spoke, Mike, and if we recall a conversation we had when we first met was about like, hey, Monday mornings are just, overwhelming for a lot of the front office people, just because they're taking on a lot of the load from what happened over the weekend, or, sometimes a physician calls out sick and they have to reschedule all their appointments. But then the last time we spoke, like last week, you said now it's the current COVID crisis has taken that to another level, right? And you're seeing, and you mentioned about, you're telling us about your employee with a child. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I think that's a really interesting dynamic.
So we had one of our triage or medical assistants had left, and she did not actually go to a different practice this time. She is taking care of her grandparents. But anyway, so she left, so we hired somebody. We got very lucky, though, recently, a little bit different from Kathleen, that our positions we've had available, we've actually had pretty good applicants. Like, I'm not like struggling for applicants.
That's great.
That's been really good. But anyway, so we found a girl, really liked her, hired her, and she had to work out a notice where she was at, and so she did, and she was starting, and we actually got her to come early because that was in the time period we were down to 12 employees. So her other employer let her leave early. She came here, got started, and she had a 3-year-old son, and her grandmother had been keeping him, but her mom, his grandmother, had been keeping him, but they decided it was time to try to put him in daycare and this kind of thing. And so she put him in daycare on a Monday, started here on Monday. On Wednesday, she got the phone call that he was sick, and took him to the doctor, and he had COVID. So now she's at home with him for the 10, 14-day time, or 10 is what we're doing here. And then, of course, 3 days later, she's diagnosed with it. So now her 10 days turned into 13 days after she'd been here for 2 days. So we've had actually 4 employees that their either spouse or child, like a person inside their home, tested positive. Of course, we wanted them to, quarantine for a certain period of time to make sure they didn't have the symptoms. They ended up with it and doubled. We had one person that was out for 24 days.
Holy cow.
Oh, wow. Hey, on that same topic, Monica, and someone just asked a question that kind of plays off of, we've talked about low morale at practices just from what's going on. And the question really is, Ashley asks, are you having a lot of staffing issues due to multiple employees experience mental health issues now more than ever? So how are you dealing with that?
I am not 100% sure if we're seeing necessarily an increase in that, because I think everybody's experiencing that, not just us, but like our patients too. So I think that a lot of our employees they don't feel alone, if that makes sense. Here now, if we were a hospital setting, I think that would be a totally different answer, especially people that are dealing with COVID on units and things like that. I think it would be a totally different answer. But here, I think our employees are seeing so many of our patients feeling that way. And honestly, all of us have a lot of people that we actually know that have passed away. And so I think that we really haven't seen that much of low morale per se. It's weird though that this is such a stressful environment and everybody is so busy and trying so hard and that kind of thing, but we actually have really good people that work here, and there's no this sounds kind of funny, but no drama, no issues like that.
Oh my gosh. What?
Yeah, I know. When do you have this many women in one place and have no drama? But we truly don't. We really, really don't. I think maybe it's because we don't have time for it because we're too busy. But we really have good people here. Like, people actually do not mind our employees really do enjoy coming to work. Like,
That's
they really
awesome.
do. They enjoy being with each other. So I think because of that we're not experiencing that, AJ. But I think in a lot of other places they would.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we have said just to kind of keep things moving is to have, efficient systems. So people are not doubling up on work. They're not doing unnecessary work. What kind of systems have you applied just from a day-to-day working to kind of reduce the burden on some of these staff?
We have changed a lot, actually. We've looked at, that's one of the things that we felt like that was kind of the only thing we really could do right now. It's not like financially, you can just say, let's add more staff. Even though, like Kathleen was talking about the fact of trying to find and hire more staff, but it's also the side of, can you afford more staff? Should you afford more staff? Because in a medical practice too, because of COVID and different things, your show rates and things like that are not the same. Your cancellation rates are not the same, this kind of thing. So what we figured out we can do is to try to find a way to make processes easier for the employees, where they can actually feel successful in their day, that they've accomplished, what their task or their goals are supposed to be. So example is, we get a lot of our referrals via fax. And so, because we're a specialty clinic, we actually require physician referrals for neurology. And so we took that and streamlined it now where it all comes in as a scanned file that can actually be attached and imported into our electronic, patient chart. And so there's not people standing at a fax machine all day grabbing stuff off and trying to sort papers and staple and unstaple and and all this. So, and that decreased, of course, a bunch of scanning in our medical records department, because those documents don't have to be scanned now. So multiple people could see improvement in their day by one change. So we were trying to find processes that affect the biggest number of employees, and it can be something super simple. We started actually going through all the records we do scan every day, and does this really have to be in the chart? And then eliminating things that we've been doing it just because we've been doing it. Like, why are you doing that? Oh, because we always have. Well, it doesn't mean that you still have to do it that way. So we've done a lot of that. And of course, VOCAL was one of the, things we did back the end of last year, just because our phone calls are astronomical. So any way you can help respond, take information from patients and respond to the patients in a quicker, effective manner. So just being able to respond to a patient, like we have patient portals, and I know a lot of people have patient portals. Okay, so just because they can send you a message in and, they can instantly get information to you, doesn't mean that's the best way to get it back to them if it's going to trigger another question. So even though it's electronic, doesn't always mean that that's the right way to go, to go about it. So any way we can effectively get them information that they're satisfied with, where they don't feel like they are going through this never-ending electronic world of never getting their answer or never getting a human or never getting, those kind of things. So we've looked at all of that. One thing is we do have like a text, email system to send out mass messages. So it's been really good that, if the doctor is going to need to be out the next day because, we actually do some testing here in our office, like EEGs and nerve conduction velocities and things like that. And so those are a lot of the positions I was referring to that the employees were not here for 20-something days. And so there were a few days that we had to shut down a schedule. So we would, instead of having somebody call all those people, we were trying to find other ways to do that and like send them messages saying, call this number to either reschedule or here's your new date and time, where normally our answer is to call them and leave messages till we get them and then give them a new date and time. Well, no, we just looked at every process we possibly can to take the daily, struggles and streamline them the best as possible.
Right. Yeah, it's really a combination of doing a lot of things together, I think. While there's technology solutions, there's hiring solutions, there's training solutions. And I think, what we're hearing, I think today is there's just, you have to go at it from all different angles. And Nancy, we put together a little, summary screen, I think, of just all the different ideas that we came up with. And that was just us. And I think from all the people participating today, we might even have more of these. And so here's a few that I think we thought about. First one is, making onboarding easy, because, make it easy for people to start working at your practice and to be effective quickly, just because, time is of the essence. While you're hiring people, you may also be losing people. That's just the reality. And then, that clear job expectations, making sure that that you are, the outputs are clearly defined. And I think, this is actually easier said than done. We realize that because there's a lot of people who handle multiple tasks at the same time. Everyone's juggling a lot of tasks. And so, but as far as possible during that, to make it very clear as to what success looks like. So when they leave work, they feel like they accomplished something. And then regardless, the automation where possible, where it makes sense for your practice, really an opportunity for employees to speak up if they are having mental health issues, if they're having stress at work, and not to just let it be bottled up or just feel like they have to suck it up. That also goes not just for the employees, but also for the managers. Often it may be physician-led practices, for the physicians also to be empathetic to the needs of those front desk staff, because they're the ones who are making, putting it all together. And then also looking at kind of what's worked and what's not, and then doing more of what's worked. I think that's also important. And I think someone threw this in there, which was like, see if staff can work from home. And I know it's not a easy concept at every practice, because these are practices where you see patients, but where it is possible, where there are back office jobs that can be done remotely, well, that might be an opportunity to do that, to have those as remote positions. Did I miss any?
No, I think that's good. And it's interesting when we put these talking points together, or the takeaways rather, I didn't really fully understand all the cool things that we were going to uncover. It never occurred to me that, Kathleen's tidbit about, the online forms and making it easier for people to submit an application. So I was thinking about, technology as it related to making their job easier, and identifying broken processes. Very much, Monica, fabulous that you saw and identified that referral process needed improvement, and there was a way that technology can make it better. I think those things are huge. One of my daughters told me a long time ago, she's asking me, why do I like my job? I like identifying broken processes and then applying technology to fix it. That is my jam. And I think it's so key. Monica said, just because we've always done it this way, we've got to do better. There are ways to continue to improve and make sure that the goals of our organizations aren't lost. And there's a lot of technology tools out there. We could have invited, probably 10 different vendors. They have different types of technology solutions that, have the ability to impact change. And I think that it's really identifying, what do we see, what hurts, what's broken, what doesn't feel right, and then how can we implement technology to change? Because we were kind of joking around for another event that we're hosting. You're like, what could we call it? Technology for the win again, or technology shows up when your staff doesn't, or your technology doesn't have to have a shot, or, all these things. But it's obviously, it takes all of these things, good staff, good leaders, good solutions to make the world go around.
Awesome.
Hey, we have guys, we got a couple more questions I thought we'd sneak in there. If
for sure.
Robin, early on in our discussion, said it's hard sometimes to be in a small practice and raise wages where they probably should to be competitive. And I'm curious, Monica, how do you get buy-in when you need to go back to the owners of the practice and explain to them that, hey, rates or wages have gone up? How do you get that buy-in?
Basically, we have routine physician meetings anyways, to, have an agenda and talk about certain things. So the way I kind of, what we're doing with the existing employees was we did look across the board and make some, do some raises. We usually do it annually, but there have been certain people that did step up and, do certain things and got new roles and added new things. So we did do that part. But the physicians here were already fully aware of the ability to go other places that were paying more. I mean, it's a very obvious thing that an employee is their market now, type deal. And so they were already aware of that. So it wasn't really a problem to go and say, hey, we got to hire this position, especially like the medical assistance position. And so this girl came from a place that she was already doing that. Now, of course, she had to learn our process, but she already knew medication. She already had experience. So it was easy with that one to say, she's already getting paid this here. She's already had, this experience. The training would be a lot quicker, a lot easier. And she may even be better than somebody else that we have in that position type deal. And so that's the way I had to do each individual thing, is showing their value.
Thanks, Monica. And if I can give one more question, AJ, and I know we're right up against it, but I would love to hear Kathleen's point of view on the mental health question we had earlier. Are you guys seeing an increase in mental health need amongst the staff, and how are you guys handling that?
I do agree. We are. I mean, and I think for more reasons than just the COVID, right? I mean, there's the pressure of your children now being afflicted, or an adult, or, a grandparent that you're taking care of. So we're very fortunate that we have an employee assistance program. And many of our locations right around the corner of them have mental health facilities. So we've actually got the name of all the facilities located near our practices, just in case there's an instant need for someone just to talk to somebody. And in our EAP program, it's a 24/7 where there's tons of resources available to our employees that they can call and contact, or just, hey, I just need to talk to somebody in the middle of the night. And so having that outside of our EAP program and just having that available as a resource to our employees, so they know that we care, is important to us, because people always come first. No matter what you do in our field, people will always be first.
Awesome.
Hey, Bill, I was going to say the same thing earlier too, is we have, when AJ asked me that, I didn't think to say it then, we have an EAP program here too. And so in our town we do, and there's we actually do have a list of all the employers that actually offer it too, so that our patients also talk to us about those things. And we said, hey, where do you work? Where does your husband work? Because the way our EAP works here is it's offered to you, the employee, and to your immediate family in your home. So if my son needed it, my husband needed it, it's for them for free. So even our patients, we can offer the EAP to them, but we have it for our staff here also.
Very good.
Awesome.
Well, on that note, I know we are right up against the time, well, I guess we have one more question here. Bill?
Yep. What is the name of the program for emotional health?
It's called an employee assistance program, and there's numerous facilities out there that offer it. If you just look up EAP nearby, they can give you a couple of different options.
It's like a bid, like in our town here, you had certain medical clinics that put a bid in to host the employee assistance program within their facility. And so it can be, it's not like it's a certain name nationwide. It's going to be in different areas in different towns, but most everywhere has one available.
Yeah, for the person who called in, contact your medical provider if you have an insurance program, and they will have some referrals for you.
Great. Thank you. Well, on that note, we really want to thank Kathleen and Monica from all of us, I guess, and appreciate everyone who joined us at this webinar. Some great conversation, great questions as well. The copy of this webinar will be available to you after this. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.